Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
In this thread, things that have happened to you in an ocean, sea, or other big mass of water. Does not necessarily need to be paranormal, but such stories are welcome too. Be me in a lake in Sweden, about 11 years old. Swim out deeper, very deep, to look cool in front of friends. Suddenly feel something hard against my knee. Look down, see a sunken motorboat-like boat, rusty. It was really close to the surface. Experience the biggest shiver down my spine I have ever felt. Panicking, swimming like a crazy gorilla to land. Tell my parents. They call the cops or something. The boat got towed by some professionals. I am still afraid of swimming in other waters than in the pool. Haha. Looked like the boat in the picture, only that the boat was smaller and the water more dirty or foggy.
Being a man who lives right next to the ocean and was a seasonal fisherman, I've had my share of scares out on the open water. Although, one stands out much more than the others. Be me, probably around 12 to 13, going to our cabin in the woods across the water, since that's the only way it's accessible. Be in deep ocean water. Only land is nearly an hour or so away from us straight ahead. Mountains are tall enough to see it, though. Suddenly, the ocean and water go eerily quiet and still when we stop to do a bit of open water fishing in season. No waves, no ripples, nothing. Make a quick glance over the edge while I'm pulling my line back up. See a weird creature. Looked like garbage bags underwater. Pretty deep and making erratic movements, like jitters and constantly circling. Suddenly see it rise, getting much clearer. Deep red eyes, like blood red. Only its humps emerged from the water, black and scaly. A rancid, dry, decaying fish smell. Long neck, but not like Nessie long. Sort of like a horse neck. It was about half the size of the boat and just glared at me. Yell for my uncle who was with me at the time to see what this thing is. He's as freaked out as me. Not taking any chances out on the open water. We hightail it out of there. Been out on the water a million times since, and not once have I seen anything close to it. Even did a bit of research online, but still never came up with concrete ideas. It still comes to my mind whenever I pass that particular spot on the way to my cabin.
So, I have a few of these. One of my workmates is from Shetland. He told me a few stories about deaths and irregular events from up there. A few years back, 2016 I think, one of his fisherman friends from up there had gotten his leg caught in a netting line while out in the North Sea and had been dragged overboard. The guy had a family and would have been conscious, in agony, and aware he was going to die with no hope of rescue or escape or seeing his family again. Not particularly paranormal as such, just horrific to think about. Another one he told me about was that at the inquest to Piper Alpha, there were a lot of inconsistencies that were never revealed to the inquiry. That there were two pumps, or something, that were apparently never to be used at the same time, and it was claimed in the inquest that this had never happened, but that he had photos of both being used at the same time. Something like this. I know it's vague, but I don't remember the details. Anyway, he said he was holding on to them and would never go public with them in case he ended up dying in a car accident or something like that.
I have one for you. Not paranormal, but adventurous and scary. Story my dad told me. Background history. My dad joins Third World Navy at 19. Can swim like a pro, but hates dark water. The Navy decides to buy a killer-class ship from Russia. The ship is new but small and not that heavy compared to other giant machines. Now the story. Sorry I'm new here, so don't know how to Greentext. Dad gets posted to Russia. They take the new ship, learn how to use it, get trained for 11 months in Russian cold. Dad hates the cold. Finally ready to come back with the ship. The crew is all new except the cook who was Russian. After 5 or 6 days of sailing, the water freezes. The ship is small and cannot break ice. Call back to shore for an icebreaker. The Russians say it will take a long time due to the weather near the coast. The ship's crew is mostly young kids who joined the Navy for the fun. The ship's captain is not aware of Russian climate and commands the ship to move forward and try breaking the ice. The ice breaks at first, but then they hit a thick, massive ice crust. The engine is going full power. The captain is all confident about his stupid idea. Suddenly the engines burn and the ship catches fire. The Russians decorated many rooms with expensive wood and paintings in galleries. All starts to burn. Black smoke everywhere. Ice-cold water all around, getting dark. My dad's friend on the deck tries to extinguish the fire and accidentally takes an oxygen cylinder, or some shit they used for welding, drops it down a stairway. Minutes later, a big explosion. Dad falls in the water, semi-conscious. Nobody is giving a shit about some men drowning in water. Eventually, the ship is rescued by Russians. Dad floats away for around 8 hours with his life jacket, now unconscious. Gets seen by the Coast Guard. Taken back to the ship. Dad is a non-drinker. He is asked to drink brandy. Never tasted it before. Drank a full bottle like a pro. No one dies. Some people got seriously hurt. Dad completes 31 years of service in the Navy and is now retired.
Having a family reunion at a lake. Supposed to be safe to swim in. Everyone is having a good time swimming and fishing. I get up on a little dock area. Do a running jump into the water. Big splash. So cool of me to do that. Wait. This water doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right either. It's all black and wriggling around like it is alive. It is alive. Dove into a big pile of snakes that were just under the water. Everybody takes off away from the lake as the snakes overrun the water and shore, screaming while whipping snakes back and forth trying to get to shore. Didn't get bit at all. Never jump into water ever again. From what we were told, they were mating water moccasins. If that were true, and they had attacked me, I almost certainly would have died.
Oh sweet, this is my first time on this board and this thread is perfect for my stories. I'm a deep-sea commercial diver. I've seen some shit in the water that I can't really explain. That's not the scary part though. Most of my dives are in zero visibility. Pitch black water with only a single flashlight illuminating the surrounding abyss. The scary part is not when you see something, but when something massive touches you, and you can't see it back. There I was, 213 feet deep, breathing heliox and holding a sack full of Sharpies. My job was simple. Use a Sharpie and a yardstick to mark spots on a pipeline that we had to install clamps. The Sharpies are only good for 1 mark apiece, as at such extreme depth, the pressure literally squeezes the ink out of the pen as soon as you remove the cap. Anyway, so I was freezing cold, and I was trying to ignore the triggerfish that was trying to eat my hands, when suddenly there was a massive surge of water. Most surprising, the water was hot. Immediately, I assumed that someone somewhere was discharging a pipeline or something, so I'm pissed. Topside, I thought you said this whole conductor bay was locked and tagged out? It is. Then what the fuck is this hot water? No idea. So I'm confused, and I look around the whole area. Nothing. Just me, the pipelines, and some sleeping fish. I decide it's not worth worrying about and get back to work, until something touched me. It wasn't so much a touch as it was I got grabbed by what felt to be an arm or something. I jumped a bit, but decided that it was a large fish and ignored it. Bad choice. It didn't let go, but instead, somehow managed to open the quick disconnect on my emergency gas supply, and my regulator hose started pissing air and whipping around rapidly. That's when I freaked out a little. I reached back and closed my bottle, but the whip was pressurized to begin with, so whatever disconnected the fitting must have been strong. I've heard of octopus doing this sort of thing to scuba divers, but I don't know. I can't explain what happened. Well, commercial diving is broken up into two types of people: tenders and divers. A tender is essentially an apprentice diver that does all the topside deck work as well as dives. When a tender makes enough dives, he is broken out as a diver, usually around 100 dives. When I was a tender, I was making $23 an hour, working 12 to 16-hour days. Overtime is time and a half, and anything over 8 hours a day is overtime. Divers get an hourly pay raise, and also depth pay. Depth pay is broken up like this: 0 to 50 feet deep, $1 per foot; 50 to 100 feet deep, $1.50 per foot; 100 to 150 feet deep, $2 per foot, etc. So let's say you make a 200-foot deep dive for about an hour, then spend 5 hours decompressing in a chamber. The dive itself makes you a couple $100 just for an hour of work time, and then your hourly rate while decompressing in a chamber breathing O2. Also, you get paid a 12-hour minimum for being on deck, so after your dive and decompressing, you can go back to sleep, but get paid for working 12 hours. The deepest I have dove was about 270 feet. At least that was the table we used to decompress me. I rode down on an open-bottomed bell and used a very large torque wrench on some bolts. Upon finishing my work and swimming back to the bell to await my decompression, I finally noticed how incredibly beautiful it was. The water was lit up with veins of purple and blue phosphorescence, which drifted passively all around me. As I stared in amazement at this underwater northern lights, I saw something approach from the darkness. 3 whale sharks cruised by, drifting in the light and being so much more incredibly huge than I was. At this moment, I stared into the face of beauty. But yeah, someday I'll stop working offshore and start working inland diving. Stuff like dams, bridge inspections, nuclear diving, potable water, and hazmat. It's more of a 9-to-5 kind of job, and when I have a family, it will be perfect. As for now, I'm still a young man and the sea calls to me, so I will continue to go out on the water. The feel when no mermaid girlfriend.
Be me and my cousins in a small boat off of Cape Cod. We were renting a house there for a summer and launched it off of the dock they had. Cloudy and unusually calm water. So we're in the boat and I decide to take a nap in the back seat while we're about a mile from shore. Perfect sleeping environment with the gentle sound of lapping waves. About 45 minutes in, wind suddenly starts picking up out of nowhere. Wake up. A waterspout is forming directly over the boat. Wind is strengthening exponentially. Start yelling at the top of my lungs at my cousin to get us out of there. He turns the key, but the engine won't respond. Yells, and the next thing we knew, the funnel was all around us. The waterspout sucks the whole boat right out of the water and throws us 100 feet into the air before we hit the surface again. When we hit fucking hard. The boat splinters into pieces, black out. Wake up on the shore with my cousin doing CPR on me. Get up puking up seawater. Worst vacation ever. We still go to that cottage now and then, but until that summer I had no idea tornadoes can form over sea. Fuck nature.
So this is a story I had told to many of my friends from the United States rather than the people from here. I don't know why though, but whenever I tell someone this story, the first thing they tell me at the end of it is, "So it was a mermaid," or something like that. I am from South America, Chile, and it's a pretty place full of different places. Deserts, lakes, snow, all you can imagine. Anyways, when I was 17, I won a trip, and sadly, my entire class too, to an entire week in a very pretty place called Pichilemu. To be honest, that entire week was a bit interesting to say the least. The nights, the places we visited, everything had a bit of that paranormal feeling if I had to give it a name. On the third day, we went to a lake and me and a friend went to fish. My friend started to fish first because we only rented one fishing pole, so I proceeded to walk and maybe pick up tiny crabs to eat later. I didn't because one of my friends went full PETA and told me to throw them instead of eating them, and I study to be a chef, god damn. Anyways, I went far away, like to the other side of the lake where I couldn't see no one, sat on an old wooden dock and just chilled there. About 10 minutes later, my friend comes in a boat and gives me the fishing pole because he wanted to do something else. I then began to fish, and I was so captured into my own thoughts and the water that I didn't realize that someone was in the lake too. I don't know from where it came, but this lady in a white dress was all wet and just stood there watching me for a few seconds until I had to start to talk to her. We talked about what I was doing, what I was using, and all about me, to be honest. I just managed to ask her a few things before fishes started to jump out of the water, and I had to catch them with whatever I could find. I then realized I didn't have anything to take the fish with me back to the hotel, so I offered her some nice fish cuisine. She agreed, and we traveled to her house. It was all made of wood, and it was very big, but it also looked so old that the plants had started to take over the house. And yes, she had a garden with all sorts of plants. On one side, flowers. On the other, very interesting plants. Some were poison. Others were like potatoes or tiny trees. Inside her house, you could see she didn't clean much. This was because she said that she doesn't use her house that much besides the second floor, where a room she uses for who knows what. The house, as I said, was very dirty. Spider webs, dirt, old paintings that were so covered in dirt that you couldn't say it was a painting. Let me tell you that I am omitting some things to just make the story a bit faster, because some parts aren't that much important, or I just simply think that way. But if you want to know a bit more, you can ask me later. Anyways, I told her to clean the table while I went to the kitchen, where it was quite a mess, and it was quite amazing to realize that forks, spoons, and knives were all made of silver or whatever metal that was. It took me quite a while to clean the kitchen and to find a way to turn the fire on that old thing. As this damn hippie didn't want to use wood or cut a tree, I had to convince her to at least let me use dead tree wood. I made a stew with the fish and the veggies, and she seemed to be quite fascinated by it, saying that she had only eaten what nature had given her. Later on, we talked a bit. I walked around the house where she didn't let me enter a room she used, and then we simply sat on the sofa she had, a quite fancy one. We talked a bit more, and then she talked about her family, on how her mother hated her because her father was a man that came one day to her mother, seduced her, and simply left the next day. Now, to finish this long story, she would also talk about magic and how she and her mother practiced. Her mother had also died a long time ago, and she had to make all her work. I didn't ask her about that because I was growing a bit sleepy for some reason. In fact, the more I passed in her house, the more sleepy I would grow. I would feel heavy, and I didn't even want to leave. And then it happened. She was sitting right beside me, okay? And she would grab my arm, like hugging it, and would say that she had been so alone for a while and would like to repay me some way. I felt that I needed to leave for some reason, so I checked the hour and I was late, as we all needed to leave together in a bus, and I didn't know the way back and I still had this weird feeling to leave. And she would tell me to stay and stuff. I fought myself, and I managed to leave. I left her my phone number as she seemed to have one of those house phones. She didn't know how to use it though, so I told her how to use it. She let me leave, not without giving me old coins I have. They seem pretty different from each other. This might be because her mother would offer people to stay there for the night in exchange for money.
13-ish years old. Storm outside, yet warm, raining. Decide to go to the sea with friends. Huge waves, fun. Friends find a wooden pallet and sit on it, riding the waves. Waves growing bigger. The suction of the waves are now real strong. I'm going up and down the surface. Looks cool below. Suddenly feel the need to raise my hands to the surface near my face. I pop my head up to take a look around. See my friend on the wooden pallet come rushing at me on a huge wave. I had a split second to react as he was maybe half a meter from me. The suction is holding me in place. Put my hands, that were pretty much at my face already, in front of my face, to grab the pallet and brace with all my might. The pallet pushes me backwards, and I'm forced under the pallet. They pass over me, and I come back up, scratch-free. If that pallet would have hit my head, I swear I would have died. It was a really powerful mass at high speeds. Cracked skull, blood loss, cold water, derpy friends, and a long way to the hospital. Odds were really low that I would survive. I don't believe in God, but I really had a guardian angel that day.
I have a story I need to tell you. Out with fellow dive friends. Weekend camping on the beach, sharing spooky stories. One friend is silent the whole time. Get to him. Anon, what's your favorite scary dive story? You guys don't know the meaning of fear. Mate, I was attacked by a squid. What could be worse than that? He proceeds to tell us a story. He was out doing a solo scuba, like a madman. About a kilometer off the coast when his sonar pings something big and abnormally shaped about 100 meters down. He's keen to check it out as a potential spot to take people. He runs a tour company. Dives down to see what it is. It's a bus. Windows were filthy, couldn't see in. There are a shitload of fish swimming around the bus. Finds the door and pries it open with his knife. He has a massive 10-inch Bowie he dives with. There was a human corpse on every seat of the bus, even children. He says that the fish outside didn't come into the bus. They just lurked around the door. The bus starts rocking violently, like it's being rammed by sharks from the outside. He waits inside until the shaking stops before moving out. There is no disturbance at all from the outside. All the dirt is still on the roof even. He marks the coordinates and heads back to the boat. From his boat, he calls the Coast Guard and tells them what he found. Gives them the coordinates. They tell him to leave the area so they can sort it out. He says he'll light a flare so they can find it easily. He heads close into shore. but far enough that he can still see the flare with a telescope. As the flare goes out, the Coast Guard boat turns up. A team of divers get in the water. 10 minutes later, they surface. 5 minutes later, he sees the bubble pattern of underwater explosives. They demolished the bus rather than rescue the corpses for the families. What the hell is that all about? He was pretty shaken up about the whole thing.
B-15. Dad is the captain of a private shipping boat. Get asked to come along every so often. I like it because it's a great excuse to get out on school holidays. Some rich asshole wants 3 prestige cars broken down into parts, put into containers, and delivered to Taiwan. Paying my dad an assload to do it. We get the containers at the port, load the parts, Dad fills out the paperwork and assembles the crew. Then we're off. I have a thing for sleeping on the port netting hatches. It's nice and secure. Everyone knows where to find me in case a storm rolls in, and it's comfy watching the world go by when you're bored. One night I wake up, realize I've overslept, unlock the hatch, and jump up onto the deck. One of the night watch sees me and waves me over, then offers me a cigarette. We start talking about the sea, my dad, and what kind of rich small-decked ass clown would order prestige cars. I see a blue light in the distance and point it out to him. We have no idea what it is, so we just watch it for a while. It looks stationary and it's well out of the way of our course, so we don't see the point in alerting everyone. Suddenly the light disappears. Then we see a huge light zip out of the ocean and off into the clouds. A massive boom follows it, sounding like a rocket being launched. Now, kid, believe me, you don't want to go telling people about shit like that. At best, people will think you're nuts. At worst, we just saw something some powerful people didn't want us to see. I think it's time you went to bed.
B-14. Be canoeing down a creek at a family campground with my younger brother and 6-year-old niece. The creek is filled with downed trees and miscellaneous redneck garbage. Water is deep and murky as shit. Brother points out a tree, says it looks like a really sad dead whale. You just went full spurg.jpg. Paddle closer to the tree. Somehow it has managed to decay in such a way that it actually looks like a sad beached whale. It looks like it's screaming in agony. We stare at it for a couple minutes, begin crying uncontrollably. What is wrong with us? It's a log, goddamn. Niece looks at us like we're insane, suddenly gripped with intense fear. Paddle back to the campground, never mention it to anybody. Have never been so terrified by an inanimate object in my entire life.
Be young like 9 or so. Live only a mile or so from the beach. Hot summer day, grab my older sister and boogie boards. Hit the beach. Way the shore is shaped, often get riptides. Riding a boogie board in about 5 feet of water. Get overturned by a wave and go ass over tea kettle. Knock into the board, knocks the air out of me. Hit the sand at the bottom. Get pulled into a riptide. Pulled out to sea and don't know where I am. Convinced I'm going to drown. Finally, let out of the current. The boogie board pulls me up. Got pulled quite a ways down the coast, near an oil refinery. See a weird man on the rocks staring out into the water. Looks directly at me. Never been so scared in my life. Something about this guy isn't right. Paddle my way to shore as fast as I can. Never go swimming in the ocean again.
OP here. Love your stories. Glad that the thread is still alive. I have another story, more or less recent than my sunken boat experience. Be in Finland with my parents. Around 15 years old. Have a summer house in the Finnish woods, just 5 meters to a big lake. Decide to go out fishing in an old plastic boat. Have a big rock tied to a rope as an anchor. LOL. Finnish ingenuity. Find a great place to fish. Throw the anchor in the water. Fish like a pro, fighting mosquitoes. When done, tow up the anchor, but lost the stone tied to the rope. No worries. Only need to find a new one on land. Decided to row fast home. My oars break from the plastic hull of the boat. Too heavy to hold both, plus being surprised. Lost both to the sea. They sink like lead. Panic. No anchor or oars. Lost to the Finnish streams. Too afraid to swim home. The water is really deep and muddy. Finally found out that the seat could be used as an oar. Got home safe and tired. I am so clumsy.
Not scary, but traumatized me of dark water. Camping trip with my sister and her boyfriend at Lake Lanier. Don't care if you know what state I live in, but to know what lake I am talking about. The water is like dark black as night. At knee level, you can't see your feet. On tubes by the shore, just relaxing. Sister and I just laying about. I may have fell asleep for at most 5 minutes. Wake up in the middle of an area kind of like a C shape with land on all sides, but the opening to the rest of the lake. Water deeper than I can imagine. Darkness all around. Really far from land. Swimming like crazy, but not getting off the tube. Get back to land, having a panic attack. Sister and boyfriend laughing. Turns out she thought it would be funny to push me out there and watch as I freaked out.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.